When Millionaire CEO Mike Anderson zoomed in on his daughter's innocent camp photo, he didn't expect to see the face of a man who had sworn to destroy everything he loved, a man who should have been behind bars. Now, with his daughter's life hanging in the balance, Mike has mere hours to reach the remote campground before a years-old vendetta claims what he holds most dear. Before we continue, comment from where you are watching from. Mike Anderson swiped away another email requesting his attention. As CEO of SecureShield, his time was worth thousands per hour, but he always had a moment for Emma. He tapped on his daughter's selfie from camp, smiling at her wild blonde hair and the marshmallow smeared across her cheek. He was about to text back when something in the background caught his eye. He zoomed in, fingers trembling slightly as the image sharpened. The man sitting by the campfire behind Emma had changed his appearance, but Mike would recognize those eyes anywhere. "No," he whispered, already reaching for his car keys. "That's impossible." Those were the same eyes he'd stared into across a courtroom 5 years ago. The same eyes that had promised revenge when the verdict came down. Eyes that belonged to a man who was supposed to be in prison for another decade. The man who had sworn to take everything Mike loved. Mike's heart hammered against his ribs as he dialed his father's number. No answer. He tried his mother, straight to voicemail. Emma's number. Nothing. He grabbed his jacket and rushed toward the elevator, nearly colliding with his assistant. "Reschedule everything," he ordered. "Family emergency." "But the Jensen merger—" "Everything, Tracy. Cancel it all." The drive to Pine Lake Campground normally took 3 hours. Mike made it in just under 2, his luxury sedan pushing speeds that would have cost him his license if he'd been caught. His mind raced faster than the car, replaying the last words Victor Reeves had spoken to him 5 years ago. "When I get out, Anderson, I'm coming for what matters most." It had been an empty threat then. Victor had been sentenced to 15 years for armed robbery and aggravated assault. His crime spree had ended when SecureShield's facial recognition system had identified him at a bank in Portland. Mike had testified at the trial, explaining in clinical detail how the system worked, how it had tracked Victor across 3 states. How was Victor at Emma's camp? Mike's phone rang, his ex-wife, Sarah. "Have you heard from Emma?" he asked immediately. "Hello to you too," Sarah replied, her voice slightly slurred. She'd been in and out of rehab for years, one of the many reasons their marriage had collapsed. "I was calling to see if you could take her next weekend. Something came up." "Sarah, focus. Have you talked to Emma today?" A pause. "No. Why?" "I need you to call my parents right now. Use your phone. Keep trying until they answer." "What's going on, Mike?" "Just do it," he snapped, then immediately regretted his tone. "Please, Sarah, it's important. Call me back the second you reach them." He ended the call and pressed harder on the accelerator. The radio crackled with a news update. Breaking news from the state penitentiary. Officials have confirmed that Victor Reeves, convicted of a string of armed robberies in 2019, escaped during a prison transfer 3 days ago. Authorities believe he may have had inside help. Mike's knuckles whitened on the steering wheel. 3 days. Victor had been free for 3 days, and somehow he'd tracked down Emma at a remote campground. Mike's phone rang again. Sarah. "I got through to your mom," she said, her voice steadier now. "She said everything's fine. They're having a great time with some new friends they met at the campground, a man and his sister who are camping nearby." Mike's stomach dropped. "Did she describe the man?" "Friendly guy with a beard. Said he's been teaching Emma how to identify different types of leaves and birds. What's going on, Mike?" "That man is Victor Reeves, the one whose case I testified in." "The bank robber?" "But he's in prison." "Not anymore. Tell Mom to get Emma and leave the campground immediately. Don't talk to the man, don't say goodbye, just grab Emma and go." "Mike, you're scaring me." "Good, be scared. Victor threatened to come after my family. He's dangerous, Sarah. Call them back right now." The Pine Lake campground entrance came into view, its wooden sign weathered by years of sun and rain. Mike swerved into the gravel parking area, dust billowing behind his car. His phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. No answer now. Called 3 times. Mike sprinted toward the campsite area, his designer shoes slipping on the loose gravel. He knew where his parents always camped, Site 42, near the lake but not too close to the bathrooms. As he rounded the bend, he saw their familiar blue camper van. The campsite was empty. The fire pit still smoldered with warm embers. 2 camp chairs sat empty. A half-finished mug of coffee rested on the small folding table. Mike called out, "Mom? Dad? Emma?" Silence answered him. Then his phone chimed, a new message from Emma's number. It was another Selfie. Emma was still smiling, but her eyes told a different story. Behind her stood Victor, his beard neatly trimmed, his arm around Emma's shoulder in a gesture that might have seemed friendly to anyone who didn't know better. The text below the image read, "Having so much fun with Mr. Victor. We're going on a special adventure." Mike's blood ran cold. He knew what Victor was doing. This wasn't just revenge, it was a taunt, a game where Emma was the prize. As he stood frozen, staring at his phone, he noticed something else in the photo. Emma's hand was making a subtle gesture, 3 fingers splayed against her leg. It was their secret code, something he taught her years ago. 3 fingers. Danger. Emma knew she was in trouble. Mike's phone rang again. Unknown number. "Hello, Mike," said a voice he'd hoped never to hear again. "Been a while, hasn't it? Your daughter's quite delightful. Smart, too. Just like her dad." Mike's voice shook with rage and fear. "If you hurt her—" "Now why would I do that? I'm not a monster, Mike. I just want what's fair. What you took from me." "Where are my parents?" "They're fine. Sleeping off something I put in their coffee. They'll wake up with headaches, but no worse for wear. I'm not here for them." "What do you want?" Victor laughed. "What do I want? I want 5 years of my life back. I want my face removed from your system that's in every bank and store in the country. I want to stop being hounded everywhere I go." "I can get you money," Mike said desperately. "I don't want your money. I want you to suffer like I suffered. I want you to know what it feels like to lose everything." "Please," Mike whispered, his voice breaking. "She's just a child." "Meet me at Cutter's Ridge, the old fire tower. Come alone. No police. You have 1 hour." The line went dead. Mike knew Cutter's Ridge. It was a remote area, about 20 minutes from the campground. The abandoned fire tower stood at its highest point overlooking the entire valley. The perfect spot for an ambush. But also the perfect spot for a trap. Mike stood frozen for a moment, the weight of the situation crushing down on him. Then instinct took over. He ran back to his car, yanked open the glove compartment, and pulled out the small handgun he kept there. The irony wasn't lost on him. He'd built a billion-dollar security company to protect others, yet he couldn't protect his own daughter. His phone rang again. Sarah. "Mike, what's happening? Did you find them?" The panic in her voice was sobering. "Victor has Emma. My parents are at the campsite, unconscious but alive. Call an ambulance for them, but don't mention Victor. Tell them it looks like food poisoning." "My God, Mike, I'm calling the police." "No," he barked. "No police." "Not yet. He said he'd hurt Emma if I involved them. But, trust me, Sarah, I know what I'm doing." He softened his tone. "Please, just help my parents. I'm going to get our daughter." After hanging up, Mike opened the tracking app on his phone, the one he'd installed on Emma's watch last Christmas. A little dot blinked on the map, moving along the forest road toward Cutter's Ridge. At least the watch was still on her wrist. Whether Victor knew about it was another question. Mike started his car and followed the dirt road that wound through the forest. His mind raced through scenarios, strategies, anything that might give him an edge. Victor wasn't just some thug. He'd been a military contractor before turning to crime. Trained, dangerous, and now desperately unpredictable. As he drove, Mike's thoughts drifted to the night Emma was born. The way her tiny fingers had wrapped around his, the overwhelming feeling that he would do anything to protect her. He'd failed once by being too consumed with work to save his marriage. He wouldn't fail Emma again. The road narrowed as it climbed, forcing Mike to slow down. pines crowded close on either side, branches scraping against his car. The tracking app showed Emma's signal stopping at what must be the base of the fire tower. He pulled off the road half a mile away, not wanting to announce his arrival. Mike checked his gun, tucked it into his waistband at the small of his back, and began walking. The forest was quiet. Too quiet. No birdsong, no rustling leaves. Just the crunch of his feet on the needle-covered ground and the thunder of his heartbeat in his ears. "Daddy taught me this," Emma had said just last weekend, showing him how she could move silently through their backyard. "If you step like this, no one can hear you coming." Mike adjusted his stride, placing each foot carefully, moving from tree to tree for cover. The old fire tower came into view, rising above the tree line. A metal staircase zigzagged up its side to a small observation platform at the top. Through his binoculars, Mike could see movement. A small figure in a red jacket. Emma. There was no sign of Victor. Mike circled the tower's base. A blue SUV was parked on the far side, not Victor's usual style, probably stolen. Mike approached the tower, every sense on high alert. "Emma," he called softly. Her face appeared at the railing high above. "Daddy. Are you okay, sweetheart?" "He said I have to stay up here until you come up." Her voice trembled. "He said there's a surprise for you." Mike's instincts screamed trap. "Where is he now?" "He went down to get something from the car. Daddy, I'm scared." "It's okay, Em. Remember what we always say?" Her voice steadied slightly. "Andersons don't give up." "That's right, and we're going to be fine, I promise." He looked around again, still no sign of Victor. "I'm coming up." The metal stairs creaked under Mike's weight as he began to climb. 30 feet up, he paused and looked back toward the forest. Something wasn't right. Victor wouldn't leave Emma alone. Unless... "Emma, has anyone else been here? A woman, maybe?" "Mr. Victor's sister was here earlier. She was nice. She gave me hot chocolate." Sister. The pieces clicked into place. Victor had always worked with his sister Vanessa. She'd been acquitted in the trial that sent Victor to prison. Lack of evidence the official reason. In reality, she'd been the brains, always one step removed from the actual crimes. Mike continued climbing, keeping his back to the center pole of the tower. At the top, Emma rushed into his arms. "Daddy," she sobbed, burying her face against his chest. He held her tight, checking her quickly for injuries. "Did they hurt you?" She shook her head. "But Mr. Victor said bad things about you. He said you ruined his life." Mike brushed the hair from her face. "Sometimes adults have complicated problems, Em. Right now, we need to get you out of here." "Too late for that, Anderson." Mike whirled around. Victor stood on the landing, a rifle aimed casually in their direction. He looked different from the courtroom. Thinner, harder, with a beard that didn't quite disguise the scar along his jaw. "Touching reunion," Victor said. "Almost makes me feel bad about what comes next." Mike positioned himself in front of Emma. "This is between us, Victor. Let Emma go." "Oh, I don't think so." Victor gestured with the rifle. "Move away from her." "No." Victor's eyes hardened. 5 years I sat in a cell because of you. 5 years watching my life slip away, all because your fancy system picked my face out of a crowd. You robbed those banks. You shot a guard. That wasn't my system. That was you. Semantics. Victor shrugged. The world's changed while I was away. Your company got bigger. You got richer. And for what? So you could play weekend dad to a kid you barely see? The accusation stung because it carried a grain of truth. Since the divorce, Mike had thrown himself into work, seeing Emma on scheduled days, always promising himself he'd find more time soon. "What do you want from me?" Mike asked, his hand inching toward the gun at his back. "I want you to choose." "Choose what?" Victor smiled, cold and empty. "Vanessa has set charges on this tower. Old, unstable structure like this wouldn't take much to bring it down." On cue, a woman's voice called up from below. "All set, Vic." Mike's blood ran cold. "There's a child here, Victor." "I know. Your child. And you get to decide, does she leave with me, unharmed, to live a new life far away from here? Or do we all go down together when this tower collapses? You're insane, Mike whispered. No, I'm practical. You took my life. Seems fair I take something of yours. Mike felt Emma trembling against him. His mind raced through options, each worse than the last. Let me take her place, he finally said. You want revenge on me, not her. Victor laughed. Noble, but no. I don't want you dead, Mike. I want you alive, suffering, knowing your daughter is gone forever. That's real punishment. If you're enjoying this story, please consider hitting the like button and subscribing to our channel. It costs nothing but means everything to creators sharing these stories with you. Your support helps us bring more content like this to life. Now, back to our story. How do I know you won't hurt her? Mike asked, desperately stalling for time. You don't, but she has a better chance with me than staying on this tower. Victor checked his watch. You have 30 seconds to decide, and then Vanessa hits the button. Emma clutched Mike's hand tightly. Daddy, I'm scared. Mike knelt beside her, looking into her eyes. Sarah's eyes. Emma, remember the secret code we made? The hand signals? She nodded solemnly. If you ever need help, you use them, okay? He squeezed her hand in a pattern. 3 short, 3 long. SOS in Morse code, something he'd taught her during their camping trips. Victor's patience was wearing thin. Time's up, Anderson. What's it going to be? Mike stood, his decision made. The gun pressed against his back was a cold comfort. He wouldn't risk Emma's life in a shootout on an unstable tower. If I let you take her, I need proof of life. Regular updates. Victor smiled. You're not in a position to negotiate. I am, if you want to walk away from this. Something in Mike's tone made Victor hesitate. What do you mean? Mike reached slowly into his pocket and pulled out his phone. On the screen was a live tracking map with 2 blinking dots, one for Emma's watch and one that was now attached to Victor's vehicle. The moment Emma's signal stops moving or disappears, a message goes to the FBI with your location. So you can take her, but know that I will find you. Wherever you go, whatever you do, I will never stop hunting you. Victor's smile faltered. You're bluffing. Try me. I built a security empire by being 3 steps ahead. Mike's voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. You have no idea what I'm capable of when it comes to protecting my daughter. The standoff stretched, seconds feeling like hours. Then a voice crackled over a radio at Victor's belt. Vic, we've got company. Police cars coming up the forest road. Victor's face contorted with rage. You called them. No, Mike said truthfully, but my ex-wife might have. Victor raised the rifle, aiming it directly at Mike's chest. If I'm going back to prison, you're not walking away from this. Emma whimpered, and in that moment, Mike made his choice. In that fraction of a second, Mike saw everything with crystal clarity. The slight tremor in Victor's trigger finger, the fear in Emma's eyes, the distant flash of police lights through the trees. Please, Mike said, his voice steady despite the fear churning inside him. Let's all walk away from this. You don't want to hurt a child. Something flickered across Victor's face. Doubt, maybe even humanity. Then the radio crackled again. Victor, they're almost here. We need to go now. The moment shattered. Victor's face hardened once more. Turn around, he ordered. Both of you. Face the railing. Mike turned slowly, positioning Emma behind him. His fingers brushed against the gun at his back. I know what you're thinking, Victor said. Don't try it. You might be fast, but I'm desperate. And desperate men don't miss. Mike raised his hands. Just let Emma go down first. Then you can do whatever you want with me. Noble, but stupid. Victor laughed humorlessly. Your little princess stays right here. A metallic click sounded as Victor removed the safety from his rifle. Then Emma's small voice broke the tension. Mr. Victor, is that your sister calling you? Victor's attention shifted for just a moment. It was all Mike needed. He spun, drawing his gun and shoving Emma toward the far corner of the platform in one fluid motion. 2 shots cracked almost simultaneously. Mike felt a searing pain across his upper arm as Victor's bullet grazed him. His own shot went wide, splintering the wooden railing beside Victor's head. Victor lunged forward, rifle swinging like a club. The metal stock caught Mike in the chest, driving the air from his lungs. He stumbled backward, struggling to regain his balance on the narrow platform. "Daddy!" Emma screamed. "Stay back, Em," Mike gasped, raising his gun again. Victor charged, faster than Mike expected. They collided, the impact sending both guns clattering across the platform. Mike grappled with the larger man, acutely aware of the 30-foot drop just inches away. "Should have minded your own business, Anderson," Victor grunted, landing a punch to Mike's ribs. "Should have stuck to your computers and left real criminals alone." Mike drove his knee upward, connecting with Victor's stomach. "Real criminals don't threaten children." They struggled, locked together in a deadly dance. Mike fought with the desperate strength of a father protecting his child, but Victor had prison-yard brutality on his side. Each blow landed with practiced precision, targeting vulnerable points. Through the haze of pain, Mike saw Emma scrambling towards something, his gun lying near the edge of the platform. "Emma, no!" Victor saw it too. He shoved Mike aside and lunged for Emma. Mike tackled him from behind, sending them both crashing into the railing. The aged metal groaned ominously. Victor threw an elbow back, catching Mike in the face. Blood filled his mouth, but he didn't loosen his grip. "Let go!" Victor snarled, twisting in Mike's grasp. "Never," Mike growled. The railing gave way with a tortured screech of metal. For one suspended moment, both men hung in space, half on the platform, half over the abyss. Victor clawed desperately at the wooden boards. Mike managed to hook one arm around a support beam. "Help me!" Victor's voice had lost its menace, replaced by raw fear. Mike stretched his free hand toward Victor, their fingers almost touching. Then the section of platform under Victor splintered and broke away. Victor fell, his scream echoing through the forest. The impact when he hit the ground 30 feet below was sickening. Mike pulled himself back onto the platform, gasping. "Emma!" She emerged from behind the center column, eyes wide with shock. "Daddy, you're bleeding." "It's okay, sweetheart." He gathered her into his arms, wincing at the pain in his ribs. "Are you hurt?" She shook her head against his chest. "I was so scared." "I know, Em, but you were brave. So brave." The tower groaned beneath them, the entire structure shifting slightly. The damage to the platform had compromised its stability. "We need to get down," Mike said urgently. "Can you climb down the stairs?" Emma nodded, wiping tears from her face. They descended carefully, the metal steps wobbling beneath their weight. Every few seconds the tower would shudder and creak. Whatever Vanessa had done to weaken the structure was taking effect. At the bottom, Mike saw Victor's crumpled form nearby. He turned Emma away from the sight. "Don't look, sweetie." Police sirens wailed closer. Through the trees, Mike could see flashing lights approaching the clearing. "Mike!" Sarah's voice rang out. She burst from the tree line, running toward them. "Emma!" Emma broke free from Mike's grip and ran to her mother. "Mommy!" Sarah swept her up, tears streaming down her face. "Oh my God, are you okay? I was so scared." Mike approached them slowly, his body aching from the fight. "How did you know where to find us?" "I didn't listen to you," Sarah admitted. "I called the police right after we hung up. Then I remembered that tracking app you installed on her watch, the one I always complained about." She gave him a watery smile. "I guess your paranoia paid off this time." The first police cars pulled into the clearing, officers emerging with weapons drawn. "There's a woman," Mike said urgently to the nearest officer. "Victor's sister. She's still out here somewhere." The officer nodded and spoke into his radio. A loud crack echoed through the forest as another section of the fire tower collapsed. The platform where they'd been standing minutes before crashed to the ground, sending up a cloud of dust and debris. "If you'd been up there," Sarah whispered, hugging Emma tighter. Mike stared at the destruction. "Where are my parents? Are they okay?" "They're fine. At the hospital getting checked out. Your dad has a nasty headache, but they'll both be okay." Sarah's expression softened. "They're more worried about Emma. And you." Emergency vehicles continued to arrive. More police, an ambulance. A medic approached to examine Mike's arm. "We need to find Vanessa," Mike insisted as the medic worked. "She's as dangerous as Victor was." "Was?" Sarah caught the past tense. Mike nodded grimly toward Victor's body, now being examined by police officers. Sarah pulled Emma closer, shielding her eyes. "It's over then." "Not yet," Mike said, wincing as the medic cleaned his wound. "Not until they find—" "Mr. Anderson," a police officer approached. "We found a woman trying to flee in a blue SUV about half a mile down the road. Says her name is Vanessa Reeves." Relief washed over Mike. "That's her." "She had what appears to be detonators in her possession. Was going on about bringing down the tower." The officer studied Mike's face. "Care to fill me in on what happened here?" Mike looked at Emma, now dozing against Sarah's shoulder, exhausted from her ordeal. "It's a long story." As Mike began explaining, a thought struck him with sudden clarity. For years, he'd built systems to protect strangers, accumulating wealth and power while neglecting what truly mattered. Today had nearly cost him everything. "Officer," Mike interrupted himself, "could I have a moment with my family first?" The officer nodded. "Take your time, sir." Mike approached Sarah and Emma, his daughter's peaceful face a stark contrast to the chaos around them. "Sarah, I've been thinking." She raised an eyebrow. "Dangerous words coming from you." He smiled despite himself. "I want to be more present in Emma's life. Not just weekends and holidays. I want to be her dad. Really be her dad." "What about Secure Shield?" "The company can run without me being there 80 hours a week." Mike touched Emma's hair gently. "Today, I almost lost everything that actually matters." Sarah studied his face, searching for something. "You mean it, don't you?" "With all my heart." His voice cracked slightly. "When I saw her in danger, nothing else mattered. Not the company, not the money, just her." The forest around them buzzed with activity. Officers securing the scene, medics treating his injuries, the crackle of radios reporting Vanessa's capture. But in that moment, the world narrowed to just the three of them. "I'm not asking for us to get back together," Mike clarified. "I know that ship has sailed. I just want to be the father Emma deserves." Sarah's expression softened. "She'd like that. So would I." Emma stirred, blinking sleepily. "Daddy? Are the bad people gone?" Mike knelt beside her, ignoring the pain in his ribs. "Yes, sweetheart. They're gone. You're safe now." "Can we still go camping sometime?" Mike laughed, surprised by the question. "You still want to go camping after all this?" Emma nodded seriously. "But next time, you have to come too, to keep the monsters away." Mike's throat tightened with emotion. "I promise, Em. Next time I'll be right there with you." Over Emma's head, his eyes met Sarah's. In her gaze, he saw not the bitterness of their failed marriage, but a cautious hope for a new kind of future, one where they could be parents together, even if they couldn't be partners. The forest continued to darken as the sun began to set. Police lights flashed through the trees, casting long shadows. The collapsed fire tower stood as a grim reminder of how close they'd come to tragedy. But in the midst of it all, Mike held his daughter's hand, feeling her small fingers curl trustingly around his. In that moment, he made a silent vow. Nothing, not money, not power, not success, would ever come before her again. The Anderson family lake house stood peaceful in the morning light, mist rising off the water. Mike sat on the dock, coffee mug in hand, watching the sunrise paint the sky in shades of pink and gold. From inside the house came the sounds of breakfast being prepared. Emma's laughter, Sarah's gentle admonition about something spilled. 2 months had passed since what the media had dubbed the fire tower standoff. The story had dominated headlines for weeks. Tech billionaire confronts escaped convict to save daughter. Mike had refused all interview requests, instructing his PR team to issue only the briefest statements confirming Emma's safety. The aftermath had been complicated. Endless police interviews, psychological evaluations for Emma, court proceedings against Vanessa Reeves, who now faced decades in prison for her role in the kidnapping and the death of her brother. Mike took another sip of his coffee, wincing slightly. His ribs still ached in cold weather, a permanent reminder of that day. "Penny, for your thoughts." He turned to see Sarah walking toward him, 2 fresh mugs of coffee in her hands. She handed him one and sat beside him on the dock. "Just thinking about how much has changed," he said. Sarah nodded, looking out at the water. "Emma's therapist says she's doing remarkably well. Children are resilient." "More resilient than we give them credit for." Mike set his mug down. "How about you? How's the new job?" After years of struggling with addiction and employment, Sarah had recently started working at a recovery center, using her experiences to help others. The stability seemed good for her. "It's challenging," she admitted, "but fulfilling. Every day I get to see people fighting to reclaim their lives." She smiled slightly. "Not unlike what you're doing." Mike raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" "Come on, Mike. The great tech titan stepping back from his empire, taking a 6-month sabbatical? The business world is still in shock." He chuckled. "Let them be shocked. Secure Shield was consuming my life. When I looked at what really mattered..." He trailed off, turning his gaze back to the lake. "For what it's worth," Sarah said softly, "I think you're making the right choice. Emma needs you. Not your money, not your name. You." The sound of running feet on the wooden dock interrupted them. Emma launched herself at Mike, nearly knocking him over. "Daddy, I made pancakes. Well, Mom did most of it, but I stirred." Mike wrapped his arms around her, breathing in the scent of maple syrup and little girl. "Sounds delicious, pumpkin. I'll be right in." "Promise?" "Promise." Emma skipped back toward the house, pausing at the door to wave. Sarah stood, brushing off her jeans. "Don't let them get cold. She's very proud of those pancakes." Mike nodded, but didn't immediately follow. "Sarah, wait." She turned, a question in her eyes. "Thank you," he said simply, "for calling the police that day, for not listening to me when I said not to. You saved us." Sarah's expression softened. "We both know I've made more than my share of mistakes over the years. I'm just glad I got something right when it counted." They walked back to the house together, maintaining the comfortable distance they'd established in their new co-parenting relationship. Not together, but no longer adversaries either. Inside, Emma waited impatiently at the kitchen table, a stack of slightly misshapen pancakes on a serving plate. "Finally, I thought you guys were going to talk forever." Mike laughed, taking his seat. "Sorry, Princess. These look amazing." As they ate breakfast, Mike's phone buzzed repeatedly with notifications. He glanced at it once, then deliberately turned it face down on the table. "Important?" Sarah asked. "Nothing that can't wait." Mike smiled at Emma. "So, what's the plan for today?" "Hiking, swimming, you name it." Emma considered this seriously, chewing a bite of the pancake. "Can we go look for frogs by the pond? And then maybe build a fort?" "Absolutely." "And can we take pictures?" But no zooming in this time. Emma's face clouded momentarily. Mike reached across the table and took her hand. No zooming in, just regular pictures of regular fun. After breakfast, as Emma ran upstairs to change, Sarah lingered in the kitchen. "She still has nightmares sometimes," she said quietly, loading dishes into the dishwasher. "Not as often, but they still come." Mike nodded grimly. "I know. Me too. She calls out for you in her sleep." Sarah met his eyes directly. "I'm glad you're here for her now." "I always will be." The rest of the day passed in a blur of simple pleasures. They caught frogs by the small pond at the edge of the property, built an elaborate fort using chairs and blankets that took over half the living room. roasted hot dogs and marshmallows over a carefully monitored fire pit as evening fell. As Mike tucked Emma into bed that night, she clung to him a little longer than usual. "You're not going back to the city tomorrow, are you?" she asked, her voice small in the darkness. "Not tomorrow," he promised. "I'm here all week, remember? And next weekend, too? And the weekend after that." He smoothed her hair back from her forehead. "I told you, Em. Things are different now." She nodded sleepily. Good different. The best different. After Emma fell asleep, Mike stepped out onto the porch, gazing up at the stars. His phone buzzed in his pocket. The executive team at SecureShield, no doubt with another crisis that only he could solve. For a moment, old habits urged him to answer. The company was his creation, his legacy. But then he thought of Emma's face as she'd caught her first frog today, the pride in her eyes as she'd shown him. He silenced the phone and slipped it back into his pocket. Inside the house, a small nightlight glowed in Emma's room, keeping the darkness at bay. On her bedside table sat a framed photo, the three of them at the lake earlier that day, smiling, ordinary, safe. No need to zoom in, no hidden threats, just a family finding its way forward. Mike Anderson had built his career identifying threats that others missed, creating systems to protect against the dangers lurking in plain sight. But it had taken nearly losing everything to recognize the most important security system of all, being present for the people who needed him most. His company might create cutting-edge technology to keep the world safe, but at the end of the day, real security came from something much simpler: a father's promise kept, a child's trust honored, a family reconnected. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges. There were still difficult conversations ahead with Emma, boundaries to negotiate with Sarah, a company that needed restructuring to accommodate his new priorities. But tonight, beneath a canopy of stars, with his daughter sleeping peacefully inside, Mike Anderson was exactly where he needed to be. No more zooming in on distant threats while missing what was right in front of him. No more sacrificing presence for protection. From now on, the most important security detail in his life would be the one that mattered most: being Emma's dad. As he turned to go back inside, his phone buzzed one final time. Mike hesitated, then pulled it out and powered it off completely. Some decisions weren't about finding balance. Some were about choosing what truly matters. And Mike Anderson had finally made his choice.